All right, so 5.5 is standard form. Our goals for today are to find the x and the y intercepts and to interpret their meaning in the real world situations. We also want to use x and y intercepts to graph the lines. Just so you guys have an idea, when you have a graph, this is your x, this is your y line. Your y-intercept is always going to be on this line, and your x-intercept is always going to be on this line. Maybe positive and maybe negative, but it's always going to be either on the horizontal or the vertical line. This is the words that we're going to be using, the y-intercept and the x-intercept. Again, the y is when it intersects the y aspect of the graph, and the x when it intersects the x line. Again, it may be positive or negative. Now, the y-intercept is the y-coordinate of the point where the graph intersects the y-axis, and the x-coordinate of this point is always 0. Remember when we were going over y-intercept when graphing with slope-intercept form, I always said the b was written as 0, either plus or minus a number. That is how you always write the y-intercept. The number can be any number, positive or negative, but always on the right. That is for the y-intercept. And then for the x-intercept is the x-coordinate of the point where the graph intersects the x-axis, and the y-coordinate of this point is always 0. In this case, it's going to be the opposite. For the x-axis, it's going to be either positive or negative number, 0. That is always going to be how it's going to be written for the x-intercept, and the y-intercept is always going to be written 0, either plus or minus a number. Now let's look at the at the graph. We have the x-intercept is 4, and it represents the time that the driver reaches the surface or when depth equals 0. And then we have the y-intercept is negative 120, and it represents the driver's elevation at the start of the ascent when time equals 0. So we're going from, this is elevation and time, okay? So elevation is our y, and time is our x. Now what does that mean? Say this person's scuba diving, right? Pretend I can draw a scuba diving person. Sure, that's right. And we're timing the time it takes for him to go from the deepest part to when he comes back to reach for air. That is this line. The y-intercept is where he started, the deepest part of the ocean. In this case, negative 120 of where he was, feet. And then he rose up those negative 120, so he rose 120 feet. And that's where he reached the level of the ocean, which is level 0. That's where he can breathe air again. So it took him 4 minutes to reach the top from when he was 120 feet underwater, or negative 120 since we were going technically underground. So they want us to find the x and the y-intercept. Now our x-intercept, as we know, is going to be when it crosses the x-axis. So any point here, and that point in this graph is right here. So our x-intercept is negative 2, but it is written as negative 2, 0. I want you guys to know how to write it both ways, just so you understand and are able to do it both ways, because it may sometimes ask you in an order pair, or it may sometimes just ask you for where the x-intercept. And then we have the y-intercept, which is right, that one. So again, in this case, our y-intercept is positive 1, and it's written as 0, 1 when it comes to an order pair. So our x-intercept is right here highlighted in black, and the y-intercept is highlighted right here in red. So our x-intercept is going to be at negative 2. So our coordinate is going to be negative 2, 0. And our y-intercept is going to be right here at 3. So our coordinate is going to be 0, 3. So the standard form of a linear equation, you can use the x and the y-intercepts to make a graph. The x-intercept is the x value of the point where the line crosses, and the y-intercept is the y value of the point where the line crosses. Standard form equation is ax plus by equals c. Now, the a can be any number anywhere from negative infinity to 0 to 1 to -1. It could be whatever. B can also be whichever number. So I'm just going to write B can also be any number. And same for C. It is important though that you know when you're writing in standard form, the A must always be positive. If the A is not positive, it's not correctly written in standard form. I'm going to write that down. So, to graph a linear equation in standard form, you'll find the x-intercept by substituting 0 for the y and solving for x, and then substituting 0 for the x and then solving for y. I know in this case, they already gave you the example, already gave you the answer, but let's work it through anyway, so we can understand how they're doing. We have the same equation for both. 2x plus 3y equals 6. And if you want to find the x-intercept, so let's do find x-intercept. Find x-intercept. We have to put the y equal to 0. So they do that here as 2x plus 3 times 0 equals to 6. 3 times 0 is 0, so we're left with 2x plus 0 equals 6. That's going to be 2x equals to 6, divided by 2, and then we get x is equal to 3, which is exactly what we got right here. So our x-intercept is going to be at 3, 0. Now, to find the y-intercept, we do the opposite. We set the x to 0. So, in this case, I set it up as 2 times 0 plus 3y equals 6. 2 times 0 is 0, plus 3y equals 6. So we're left with 3y is equal to 6. Divide by 3 on both sides, and we're left with y is equal to 2. Again, the same thing we got right here. So our order pair for where the y-intercept is at 0, 2. So here they said to find the x and y-intercepts. And to find the x-intercept, again, we replace the x. To find the x-intercept, we replace the y with 0 and solve for x. Again, they did it for us here. And then they show us also that to find for the y-intercept, we got to replace the x with 0. And again, they did this for us. Please take a second to look through the work so you guys understand what's going on and how we got the x to equal to 2 and the y-intercept to be -5. So our x-intercept is going to be at 2, 0, and our y-intercept is going to be at 0, -5. So to find the x and the y-intercepts, let's say we're going to find the x-intercept on the left, and then the y-intercept on the right. To find the x-intercept, we set the y equal to 0. So we're going to start -3x plus 5 times 0 equals 30. So -3x plus 0 equals 30. We're going to get rid of that 0. -3x equals 30. Divide by -3, divide by -3, and we get that x is equal to -10. Now, time for the y-intercept. We get the x is equal to 0. So we're going to go ahead and write -3 times 0 plus 5y equals 30. Now, after we get that, anything times 0 is 0, so negative 3 times 0 is just 0, plus 5y equals 30. I'm just going to get rid of that 0, make it a little neater to see. Divide by 5, divide by 5, and we get that y is equal to 6. So our y-intercept is 6, and our x-intercept is negative 10. I'm going to write it in a coordinate plane, in a coordinate point, so you guys also have it as negative 10, 0, and as 0, 6. So to find again, I'm going to put the x-intercept on the left side. You don't have to. And then the y-intercept in the right one. I'm just marking it to have order on what's going on. Now for the x-intercept again, our y is going to be set to 0. So we're going to have 4x plus 2 times 0 equals 16. Anything times 0 is 0. So I can go ahead and say 4x plus 0 equals 16. I can get rid of that 0. 4x equals 16. Divide by 4. Divide by 4. And we get that x is equal to 4. Now for the y-intercept, we get the x to equal to 0. So we're going to do 4 times 0 plus 2y equals 16. The zeros are going to cancel out. Well, 4 times 0 is 0, so that's why they cancel out. So we get 0 plus 2y equals 16. I'm just going to not write the 0. 2y equals 16. Divide by 2, divide by 2. And I get that y is equal to 8. So our x is 4, so 4, 0, and 0, 8 for the y-intercept. So remember, to graph a linear function, you need to plot only 2 order pairs. So in other words, you need only 2 points at a bare minimum. It is often the simplest to find the order pair that contains the intercept. This is saying a lot of the times you're going to have fractions and it's going to be hard to find different points. You guys seen it on your test. If you guys knew at that point to find for the intercepts, you could have just plugged in 0 for both values and find an easy number. It's often easier, but it's not necessarily always the case. Sometimes those intercepts will not be perfect whole numbers. Sometimes they will. That's why it's, as a disclaimer, it's often, but it's not always the best approach. Alright, so for this one, they want us to use intercepts to graph the lines described by the equation. So guys, go ahead and find the x and the y-intercept, and then we'll plot them in the graph. So to graph this, they're asking you to find the intercepts. For the x-intercept, again, we're going to choose the y to be equal to 0. So we're going to do 3x minus 7 times 0 equals 21. The zeros are going to cancel this term. So we're going to get 3x minus 0 equals 21. Going to get rid of that 0. Don't need it. 3x equals 21. I'm going to divide by 3. I'm going to divide by 3. And I get that x is equal to 7. So we get the order pair to be 7, 0 for our x-intercept. Now for our y-intercept, we set the x equal to 0. So it's 3 times 0 minus 7y equals 21. 3 times 0 is 0. Minus 7y equals 21. Going to get rid of that 0. Doesn't do anything for us. So negative 7y equals 21. I'm going to divide by negative 7. Divide by negative 7, and I get that y is equal to negative 3. So we get our coordinate point of 0, negative 3 for our y-intercept. Now to graph it, we're just going to plot those points. We're going to plug the x-intercept right here at 7, 0. And we're going to plug in our y-intercept at 0, negative 3, which is right here. That is enough for you guys to be able to draw a line. So if we draw a line to the best of my abilities, it's going to look something like this. And that should be the graph, the line that you have. Again, make sure you plot those points correctly. It's the only way for me to give you full points when you are graphing. So again, to find the x-intercept, we're going to set the y to 0. So we're going to get negative 3x plus 4 times 0 equals negative 12. So 3x plus 0 equals negative 12. So we have negative 3x equals negative 12 divided by negative 3 divided by negative 3. We get that x is equal to 4. That is 4 comma 0. And then for our y-intercept, we're going to set the x equal to 0. So we have 3 times 0 plus 4y equals negative 12. So 0 plus 4y equals negative 12. 4y equals negative 12 divided by 4 divided by 4. We get that y is equal to negative 3. So we get the point 4 comma 0 and 0 comma negative 3. We're going to plot them right here and right here. Draw a line through it, and that is your answer. So they want us to use the x and y-intercept to graph these. So I guess x-intercept means y equals to 0, so negative 3x plus 4y equals 12. Sorry, instead of 4y, is 4 times 0. So we get negative 3x plus 0 equals 12. Negative 3x equals 12. Divided by negative 3. Divided by negative 3. And we get that x is equal to negative 4. We do the same thing for the y-intercept, but in this case, we put the x to 0. So negative 3 times 0 plus 4y equals negative 12. 0 plus 4y equals negative 12. 4y equals negative 12. Divide by 4. Divide by 4. And we get that y is equal to negative 3. So our points are negative 4 comma 0 and 0 comma negative 3. So it's going to be right here and right here. We draw that line, and that should be good for a graph. Thank you, just pointed out a mistake. I forgot to write the negative in here, so it's actually a positive 4. So it's actually right here and right here. Draw that line, and then we're good to go. So we're going to start with the x and y intercepts again. X-intercept first. So our y is going to be 0, so negative x plus 3 times 0 equals negative 6. Negative x plus 0 equals negative 6. Negative x equals negative 6. And since we want the x to be positive, we're going to divide by negative 1 on both sides to get rid of that negative. And it's going to leave us with x is equal to 6. Now we're going to do the same thing for the y-intercept. So negative 0, because we're plugging in for the x, plus 3y equals negative 6. So it's just going to be 0 plus 3y equals negative 6. 3y equals negative 6. Divided by 3. Divided by 3. We get y is equal to negative 2. So our point is 0 comma negative 2. So those are our 2 points. And then we're going to graph the line in between.